I'm Nicole.
And we are the leaders of the Oily Secrets team. We're so excited to have you tonight. We're going to be talking a lot about emotions, and most people don't even really get into the oils and stuff for that specifically at the beginning, but really focus on just like the physical and wellness part of your journey. So today we're going to bring to light some of the emotion stuff because a lot of this stuff might actually be blocking you and hindering you from achieving your overall wellness. So we're going to be talking a lot about, this is a great book, Carolyn Mean, Releasing Emotional Patterns with Essential Oils. And so we'll be touching on a lot of that kind of stuff. But again, we're so excited to have you. We know your time is very valuable. And so we're honored that you're spending some time here with us.
Yeah. So I'm just going to hit a little bit about the basics, like how it works emotionally. So what happens is when you inhale essential oils, whether you put them in your hand and breathe them out of your hands, if you drop them into your diffuser, however you are inhaling them, what happens is as you inhale them, they are going to pass your blood-brain barrier and stimulate your limbic system in your brain. When your limbic system, you have this little gland called your amygdala. And your amygdala is basically your control center for all of your emotions. So say something happens to you and your body is not prepared, you're not ready to deal with it, something traumatic or just something at all. What happens is your amygdala takes that emotion and stores it. She acts like a little librarian, and she stores it in different organs throughout your body. In fact, it's interesting that our body has frequency, and so each emotions have frequency, and your amygdala stores it where the emotion and your organ frequency match. So, like for example, take anger. That is going to be stored in your liver. And what's awesome is once you breathe that oil in, that amygdala, she basically, the little librarian says, go here, and sends those oils to where those emotions are being stored, and the oils can help drive out those emotions that have been in there wreaking havoc on your body. So we're just going to go into a little bit about how to drive out the emotions, and then we're going to talk a little bit about our testimonies.
Yes, so, okay, if you've noticed, just kind of evaluating yourself, do you have a hard time with like negative emotions? Do they kind of control you instead of you controlling your emotions? And then do you have a hard time shifting your mindset from a negative response into a more positive response? And then also another question to ask yourself is the same situation reoccurring, and even though you're trying to respond in a different way, you keep responding in the same negative behavior? And if any of those questions that have a yes behind them, then we're really going to talk about how you can like pretty much reprogram your brain to switch from being and acting out a negative way into a positive way, because every emotion has a negative outlet and a positive outlet. For example, like Nicole had mentioned, anger, the emotion of anger, that is an emotion that it releases. So it's a outward expression of that feeling. So for anger, it could be yelling, it could be frustration, it could be many things that come out in a negative way. But the opposite of anger is not just feeling happy, but just feeling joyful, laughter. So a laughter is an outward expression of just overflowing emotion that comes out. And so that could be the positive side that comes out of anger. So switching from anger to laughter. And both of those are a release of emotions. So as we kind of talk about that and shift into how all of this really works, let's talk about sesquiterpenes. So instead of me trying to explain a bunch of stuff scientifically, I'm going to read this little paragraph because it just explains it so well. So sesquiterpene, and this is from the Releasing Emotional Patterns book. Sesquiterpenes found in high levels in essential oils such as frankincense and sandalwood help increase the oxygen in the limbic system of the brain, which in turn unlocks DNA and allows emotional baggage to be released from cellular memory. Emotions have been found to be encoded within the DNA of the cells and passed on from generation to generation. Emotional behavior patterns have even been found to be locked within families. Transplant recipients report strange memories and desires, which further substantiates the emotions that they are stored in the body and encoded in the DNA of cells. More recently, studies at New York University proved the amygdala gland, the gland in the limbic system of the brain that stores and releases trauma in the body. It does not respond to sound or sight or touch, but only releases emotional trauma through the sense of smell. So this just shows that no amount of counseling can actually drive out those emotions. Yes, counseling is wonderful for just kind of it's helping you process your emotions so that you can act in a different mindset if that happens again, and it helps with your understanding. But as far as pressing out those emotions and driving those emotions out, only the sense of smell can do that.
Okay. So if you're like me and you already have kids and you just heard her talk about things being passed down from generation to generation, thank God for oils. Okay, now we have a tool, because just as we can work on them in ourselves, we can work on those same things that we notice in our children. So for me, my testimony with using the oils for emotions is I have a Zyto scanner, which if you don't know what one of those are, just ask. Brittany's got one. I've got one. We'll get you scanned. And but that's not the only way to go about getting to the root. But one way is to use the Zyto scanner, and my top emotion that I scan, or my top oil that I scanned for, was common sense. And I was all offended because I was like, I of all people have common sense. But anyways, so we went and we looked and we're like, okay, what are the emotions tied to that? Well, one of them tied to it was controlling by attacking.
Ooh.
Yes, that is definitely a weakness of mine. And so my husband made a joke. He said, "Can we overnight that oil?" I think we actually might have. Anyways, but the way out, which this is kind of like your lesson to be learned, or because of Jesus, there's a way out. This is the way out. And for me, it was speaking out, I am safe. And I really had to think about that and process through that, because I grew up in a household where there was a lot of abuse, there was a lot of addictions, and there were a lot of times where I wasn't safe. And so now, as an adult, anytime that I don't feel safe, I do kind of go into that. That's what triggers me to start controlling, specifically by attacking. Um, and so the other side of that, the emotion that I'm going for, is flexible. And so what I would do is, and not necessarily, just so you know, it wasn't that I don't feel unsafe physically. It was feeling, maybe if I feel unsafe with our finances and I'm nervous or worried about our finances, I would start controlling numbers in the budget and where our money went. So that I could feel safe about our finances. Or that's just an example. The other side is feeling flexible. So I started using that oil, and the different oils have VitaFlex points, which Brittany's going to talk a little bit more about that. But I would put it on both sides of my stomach, or I would inhale it, and I would just constantly speak out, I am safe. Like, because of Jesus and what he came and did for me, I am safe. Like, I am provided for. I don't have to worry about the finances. And I would just remind myself of that. And so as time went on, and I was faced with the same scenario where normally my response, my emotion would have been controlling. Now, as it's gone on, I'm still working on it. I haven't arrived. I'm not perfect, but it's been a lot easier for me to recognize what I'm being triggered by, and instead choose flexibility and be more flexible in that. So that's just been one awesome success I've had. I could sit here and tell them to you all night long, but I know y'all don't have that much time. So I'll let Brittany talk a little bit about hers.
So I first got started with the emotion side of oils a little bit after my daughter Allie was born. With Allie, I had just had her, and Eli was 18 months at the time. And so we just really noticed as soon as I had her, he was going through a lot of like the jealousy things and feelings and frustration. He was really taking a lot of anger out on me. And just like I felt our relationship was already a little bit strained from that. And even though I would like pour into him and try to have a little one-on-one time, it was like he wanted nothing to do with me. And so that was just a really hard time, and he was really going through a lot. And I feel like the way he was taking his emotions out from all the jealousy and everything was on his friends, and which made me even sadder because then he was the kid that no one wanted to play with, and that just broke my heart because if you know my son Eli, has the biggest heart, and he just loves people, and he is a little socialite, and so that was so hard for me when, I would come over and Hudson and Eli would play, and then Eli would be beating Hudson up, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, like this happened several times, and the little, kids would say things. You know how kids are, they don't really have a filter, and they'd be like, Eli's mean, we don't want to play with him, and it just broke my heart because I knew that wasn't his heart behind it. I knew he was obviously struggling with lots of emotions and just didn't know how to get those out the right way. He couldn't really articulate what he was feeling to me. He's only 19 months old. And so, anyways, he was going through all of that. And then when Allie turned about one month old, we had a little incident where we went to the park, and I've had to work on some emotional stuff with me too. But anyways, he was playing and going down the slide with my mom. My mom happened to be there, and I had Allie in the stroller by me, and I got on one of the little swings that was at the park. And it was a little bit different than a normal swing. It was plastic and really hard. And I got on there and was just swinging, not very high at all, just real, just relaxed about it, I guess. And just watching Eli going down the slide with my mom. And I remember vividly feeling just an emotion of love and how I was just thinking, this is the best. Like, I just love being a mom. This is great, and I can make it. Because it was kind of one of those points where Allie was only a month old, so I was struggling with a lot of sleepless nights and, all that with Eli and being aggressive with other kids and just all of that. I was just really frazzled and really just feeling really sad. And so when I just remember feeling that moment of like, wow, this is great, and I am so excited about our life and what's going on. And just literally probably 2 seconds after that thought, Eli was running up to go back up the slide, and he turns in a split second and starts running right at me. And literally, it like all happened within milliseconds, I feel like. And as I see him turn to go towards me, I'm already like swinging back. And so I obviously couldn't do anything. And I felt obviously very helpless. And I hit him. And first of all, I was freaking out because I was like, the swing was so high, I couldn't just put my feet down. And so I was feeling like I just, ruined my child, and he probably has a brain problem now, and I was freaking out. But besides that, my initial thought was worried about his brain and a concussion. But when I looked down and I jumped off and like picked him up, he had a huge gash across his cheek. And so I immediately knew, obviously, we were going to go to the hospital anyway. But then I was freaking out about that. So I grabbed Allie and Eli. Luckily, my mom was there. She's such a lifesaver. And we got in the car, and I just remember panicking, and I started freaking out because he started trying to go to sleep. And so I just lost it. And so my mom was like back there trying to keep him awake as we were going to the ER and everything. And long story short, he had to get 10 stitches in his face, on his cheek. And luckily, nothing was wrong. He didn't have a concussion or anything. But I've had to work on a lot of emotions from that, just feeling like it was my fault for a really long time. And I'm still working on that occasionally, and just really pressing into some of those emotions that I feel like stemmed from that moment. But with Eli, I just remember, especially after that accident, and also, side note, I was really adamant about, I want to make sure that this scar does not stay there, because that will be a constant reminder to me and a constant reminder to him of what happened. And to me, every time I would look at him, that would just be a reminder of, that was your fault, even though it was a freak accident. And I know that, but sometimes as a mama's heart, you feel like that's you. And so I just kept saying, okay, well, I'm going to do the oils and we're going to make sure that doesn't scar, which it hasn't, and it's awesome. But so back to Eli. After that accident, I feel like the aggression intensified, and his just behavior was even worse. And we just felt, I would just remember looking at Lee and saying, I don't know what to do. Like, this is not normal, and he obviously is hurting. And so I ended up, I think Nicole called me and was like, just scan him. And so we did. And his very first oil was vetiver. And we looked it up. And even on the little Zyto explanation, it said, has been studied by so and so doctor for behavioral problems in children. And then it also helped release the emotions of resentment and anger and frustration from traumatic events, which to me was mind-blowing because, yes, he has just been through a horrific experience and trauma with his face and getting the stitches, and they couldn't put him to sleep, and he was terrified and lying in our arms, and that whole situation was mortifying. But besides that, just all the feelings of he was not the only child anymore, and he was going through a lot of jealousy and just a lot of hurt and not understanding that. So when we started using that oil, that first week that we were using it, I mean, his emotions were coming out. It's better out than in, but man, that was a hard week. And that doesn't always necessarily happen when you start using an oil for a specific emotion. Sometimes it intensifies and gets worse, and sometimes it doesn't, and it just gets better. But for Eli, I mean, it it was a rough week, and we didn't tell his teachers at daycare or anything that we were starting that or doing that, but we just kind of wanted to see what would happen. But I would say it was day 7 or day 8. I know it was a week after he went to school and came home, and his teacher had written a really long note saying how wonderful he did that day and just how it was just a fantastic day, and he didn't have any aggression towards his friends, and it just was great. And I was just blown away because I'd already started noticing at home that he was, well, first of all, he was an emotional wreck for a week. But all of those emotions were coming out, and he was starting to, warm up to me again and wanting to play with me, and just everything had really shifted, and I could really tell a big difference in just how he was feeling and how he was, and everything in regards to that. So that wasn't necessarily, he scanned for vetiver, but it wasn't an emotion that we looked up in here. It was already on there. But for me, I also, one of my first times personally when I scanned for Cypress. And so this also, I want to just preface, when you scan for an oil and you look it up, and if it doesn't resonate with you right off the bat, please look up the opposite side, because I'm going to show you what mine was. But I would have totally dismissed it if I wouldn't have looked at the other side. And this was huge for me. So, okay, so I scanned for Cypress. So, let's see. Cypress. Okay, the emotion was disrespect. And when I looked at that, I was like, no, I really was just pretty much said flat out no. Her sister Catherine was actually helping go over the scan results with me because it was right when I first started. And so she was so kind and was like, hey, let's look at the other side just to be sure, because sometimes it doesn't make sense until you see the other side. So what we did, we looked at disrespect, and the opposite, obviously, is respect, but the way out, and this is what really spoke to my heart. I am free of insecurity, and I always add through Christ. So for me, this was the 3rd time in that same week that this had come up. And I looked up the word insecure, and it means not confident, unsure, or anxious. So yes, it wasn't, I was just having a lot of questions as far as my purpose and like what the Lord had called me to and my giftings, and just feeling very unworthy, feeling very self-conscious, feeling very, again, not confident, very unsure, very anxious. And so at that time in my life, those were all of the things I was feeling. So if I wouldn't have looked at this other side, I would not have been able to realize that this is, something that I was really needing and the Lord really wanted to work through. So obviously I found the alarm point, put that on, really breathed it in, because breathing and smelling for the emotions, like I said before, that's what's going to help drive out those emotions. And so just really pressing into that, and knowing that, the Lord kind of revealed to me, I was disrespecting myself because I didn't view myself as worthy. And I was disrespecting the Lord because He created me and I am wonderfully and perfectly made. And so the opposite, obviously, to feel respect. So respecting that, yes, I am who I am and the Lord created me and I have a purpose and mine is different than Nicole's, and that's wonderful. And we both are going to walk that out. So anyways, that was kind of mine. And so it's just been really great to work through that.
Well, one thing she said in there too, with Eli, the emotions are better out than in. Any doctor will tell you that stress wreaks havoc on your body. In the same way that stress wreaks havoc, these emotions being stored in your different organs throughout your body wreak havoc on your body. That's why, all the things like unexplained kidney failure, or I remember scanning a lady one time that scanned really high in liver, oils that support your liver. And she's like, that's interesting because everybody in my family has had liver problems, but none of us drink a drop. And I was like, I believe you. It could possibly be emotions, and so those, that's just, I just love that about essential oils. They get in there, they can drive them out of emotions, and we can get rid of those unexplained things. But also, there's 3 different ways. We've talked a lot about being scanned first and then getting to the oil that way. But the other way that you can use this book, which is actually the way my husband decided he wanted to use it, is just going through this list of emotions. Like, are you feeling maybe aloneness or anger? Are you feeling choked? Well, going through those emotions and saying, okay, yes, I do feel choked. And on the other side, I want to feel empowered. And so the oil is longevity. So you would know this is the oil that I want to use for that. And if you're ready to work on that emotion of feeling choked and you want to feel empowered, that'd be your next oil. So that's a way to go about it. And the other way is the alarm point. I can't tell you how many times where, like just last week actually, I scanned a girl and her emotion, the alarm point was right here behind her eyes. Well, she'd been having these random headaches right here behind her eyes and she couldn't figure out why. Well, it may have been an emotion. And so in the back of the book is where they have these charts where you can look up the different alarm points. It's got these awesome little body charts, this or even these of the whole entire body, where you can look up different alarm points where you store those emotions throughout your body. And so sometimes it could be like I had one guy, a random unexplained pain in the back of his shoulder. Well, he read the emotion and the guy was in tears instantly. That resonated, that he knew exactly what he needed to do. And so the awesome thing is that it's a very gentle process. When you detox your body of those emotions using essential oils, it's super gentle. You can start as slow as you want to. You can go as fast as you want to. Obviously, Britni with Eli, she hit it hard. She was ready to get rid of that emotion. Now, with me, I started just an application or 2 a day. You can apply it as much as you could possibly want. You could do it 1 time a day, or you could walk around with a bottle in your pocket if you want to. You can even put it, Brittany's wearing a diffuser necklace where you drop it on the leather piece on the back. And so she can wear that around and be focusing or using that oil all day. Your kids, you can get little diffuser bracelets and put them on their wrists if they'll wear the necklace. There's boy ones and girl ones. Tons of different websites. If y'all have questions on that, we'll let y'all know. But it's just awesome that you can start as slow or as fast as you want. And then you can spend as small amount of time is 7 weeks, and you can work on that for 7 months until you feel like you're experiencing freedom in that area. And what's awesome is those oils, they're getting in there and they are rewriting that code. That when those codes have been messed up over the damage that is done through emotions, those oils will get in there and rewrite the codes in your DNA, and they will write them back to the way they were originally designed when you left the hand of God. So I just love, this is what this book says, and I just want to leave y'all with this. It says, whether you take 7 weeks or 7 months to clear a core issue is up to you. Learning how to shift from the negative to the positive emotions makes changes permanent. And who doesn't want some permanent changes with the way they react when they handle emotions? So,
for real. And one last point I remembered. Yeah. So when the Lord created us, He gave us 5 senses. And so I just want to just touch on, for example, if you go to church and you're worshiping, okay, you're listening to the worship, you're seeing the worship, you're praying, you can touch, the communion, you can taste the communion, you can lay your hands on people and pray for them. All of the senses are engaged except the sense of smell. And that's why in biblical times they would diffuse, frankincense and have all of the incense burning. Mm-hmm. It's because that was the Lord's way to enjoy obviously the earth, the world that He created, but also to engage at a higher power with Him. And so I just encourage you to, if you are going to go have quiet time, or if you are going to go to something like Kairos or a Freedom Weekend, or even just worship, to put an oil on, release, or any of the emotions oils, just put them on and go, because those will release a barrier and get rid of the blockage, and then you can actually just press into the Lord, and He can help heal different emotions, heal memories, and just kind of bring you into more freedom. So,
yes. Awesome. Well, we love you guys. We hope this helps. I know you're probably gonna have questions, so please ask. We can have a whole discussion about this on the Oily Secrets team page. If you need a copy of this book, let us know. You know you want it. It's amazing.
Oh, yes.
You might get addicted. Mine's a little torn up. Brittany's already on her second copy.
It's true.
Anyways, we love you guys. We hope you're having an awesome day. And if there's anything y'all feel like y'all want to pray about with any of us, if stuff comes up, we know this isn't easy. Trust me, I can laugh about my controlling by attacking now, but when it first came up, it hit me hard. And so if there's something y'all want to pray about, let us know. That's really our heart. We named it Oily Secrets because the underlying message being unlocking, healing, and freedom. And we have a heart for freedom. Physically, emotionally, spiritually, we want y'all set free. So let us know if there's anything we can pray about, anything we can help y'all process, and you guys have a good day.